We're here in Monte Carlo for the Rendez-Vous de Septembre. For AM Best TV, I'm Richard Banks. And I'm joined now by Matt Mosher and Andrea Keenan, Chief Executive Officer and the Chief Strategy Officer of AM Best Rating Services. Welcome, both of you.
Thank you.
Matt, last year we talked about the performance assessment for the DUAEs. Tell us a little bit about that project, how that's progressed.
Yeah, I mean, it's come along well. It's a slow growth type of project that we look at. We don't look at it from the perspective of AM Best was creating a new product because we had to develop growth or anything of that nature. We really focus on the whole idea of integrity and support of the industry and making sure there's a strong and sustainable insurance industry. And when we developed the product, we looked at these really high growth coming out of the MGA market and the use of that distribution source. So when we look at it from the perspective, we want to make sure that these MGAs are aligned with companies. We've seen historically what the impact can be from MGAs that are misaligned with companies. And our focus is really on that as we go through and look at MGAs. Now, what we've seen going on this year is we're seeing a lot of private equity funds going into MGAs and really pushing the growth of that MGA market. We're hearing all about it. We're hearing the talk about the use of MGAs and what that does to growth. Well, anybody who's worked in the insurance industry long enough knows that there's one surefire way to get growth in the insurance industry, and that's price. Well, that raises a concern of the alignment of MGAs with insurance companies, obviously, because MGAs need to find that business and price will drive that, but then the insurance company has to take it on and is the one that takes on that risk. So we want to make sure that we're working with MGAs and working on that alignment with insurance companies. But it really comes back to the focus that we have on the value to the insurance industry and working through that. So as long as MGAs are a critical part of the insurance industry and distribution source, we feel it's important that we're looking and providing information to the industry. It hasn't been something that's been tremendous growth for us, but we do expect that over time the value of that performance assessment will come out and it'll be demonstrated when we get to the point when that misalignment occurs, which as long as there's private equity money pushing MGAs, I think you're going to see that misalignment at some point.
It's an interesting point because investor appetite for the insurance industry generally has been a hot topic here in Monte Carlo last year and increasing, I think, this year. Is that how we see things?
Yeah, and if you notice, people talk about, well, there's not a lot of investors that want to put their capital into companies and taking on the risk. They want to put it into the MGAs and the distribution source. Well, the distribution source isn't taking that risk. So investors, obviously, they don't like volatility. They want to limit their risk. They're putting their money where it's about production and passing the risk on to the insurance companies. That aspect is one of the reasons why we feel that performance assessment is so important to the insurance industry and why companies should be looking at their MGAs and the partners that they have. And the PA, well, sometimes people look at it and say, well, that's not going to replace what we do. We don't expect it to replace what a company does in evaluating the MGAs they work with. But it is a third-party assessment and provides credibility to that look and goes beyond that, well, we know our MGAs. The performance assessment has 5 different elements we look at. We look at talent, we look at underwriting, we look at the training that goes on, and we look at the financial performance of the MGA and the stability of the MGA as well, so that can provide information to a company as they look at who their partners are in doing business.
So I think a lot of people are asking themselves, what makes a successful MGA?
Mm-hmm. Successful MGAs are long-term, have the alignment with companies, and stay focused and remember to stay focused on the underwriting side of what they're doing. It's not just about that growth. When you hear an MGA talk about, well, we're going to double our growth in 3 to 5 years, that should raise concerns. That should raise red flags to an insurance company because, again, there's very few ways to get that type of growth in premium. If you stay focused on providing the service, providing coverages, and innovating in the coverages that you provide, those are the ways that an MGA has that long-term success.
So it's not just MGAs that are searching for that long-term growth and perhaps that extra premium income. How important is the rating process in a hard market like we're seeing at the moment?
I think of course, I think the rating process is essential. I think bringing transparency to the system. I mean, if the value chain has changed a little bit in which various actors in the value chain are taking on the risk or passing it on. There needs to be some sort of transparency as to where the risk is and what protection is there for the policyholders. And the ratings process looks into that. If there is capital that is being pushed to a captive, for example, we pull all of that back into the risk-bearing entity and make sure that we're capturing all the risk that is being taken on so that the policyholders are made whole and so that the investors know what they're investing in. So we bring transparency when maybe that's not the first priority of what's going on with the business.
Andrea, Matt, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Thanks, Richard.
For AM Best TV, I'm Richard Banks.